just very quickly introduce ourselves. That might be helpful. I'm going to start with Mr. Anderson, if you don't mind. We'll start with you on the screen this time.
Okay. Hey, I'm Jules Anderson, trustee. I guess that's why I'm here. Alumni, graduate 72, live in Charleston, and my job really is to keep David Riggins straight.
Thank you. And that we're throwing the ball to Mr. Riggins on that. You're muted.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing? I just got on. What was the question?
Just to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm David Riggins, chairman of the board. This is like my 4th or 5th term, and I live in Charlotte. Was born in Greenville, grew up in Gaffney, South Carolina, and anyway, that's it. But I might have to go down to Charleston and make sure Jules comes to the next board meeting when we have one. Yeah, it's on September 10th.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to just call on you in the order in which I see you. Mr. Cox, I think you're next.
No, it's actually supposed to be Crossy, and she'll be here in just a second.
All right, thank you. Ms. Keith?
Hi, I'm actually on my daughter's account, apparently. This is Harmony Noda, class of 2002, and I am calling in from Lexington, South Carolina.
That's great, thank you. Ms. Hambrick?
Hi, I'm Gigi Hamrick, class of 75, new board member, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Ms. Bowles, and you're muted. Okay, we'll come back. Mr. Martin? Well, I tell you what, anybody else who's on Zoom who we missed, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tony Fisher. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tony.
I'm Tony Fisher, starting my second term, which would be my 7th year. Enjoy my opportunity to serve and support the university, whom, in my opinion, are doing extraordinary work.
Thank you. And there was one other person.
I'm Julie Lowry. I graduated from Limestone in 65 and in my about 5th term at the school. A native of Horry County, but I live in Spartanburg, and I knew you briefly while you were at Cunders.
That's right.
So that's a little gist.
It's nice to connect with you again.
Thank you.
Anybody else on Zoom?
Franklin Foster, I'm class of 96 from Limestone University, and I'm a class of 2002 from Sunburst. So it's nice to have you working with us. I'm a trustee in my first term, and I'm calling from Columbia, South Carolina. Sorry, I couldn't do it.
All right, thank you. And switching to the room, we will just go around the room. Veranda Crawford, Director of Major Gifts. Mandy Hoyle, Administrative Assistant.
I'm Gene Moorhead, Senior Trustee.
Carly Ramsey, Director of the Saints Club.
Errol Parker, still the president.
Kelly Curtis, Vice President for Institutional Advancement.
I'm Phil Orr, Senior, but also Trustee. Chris Wiley, Director of Philanthropy.
Randy Hartman, Assistant to the President.
Dr. Rahul Mehra, I'd like to say I'm class of 1968 when my dad arrived to teach at Limestone. He retired as a professor emeritus, and I grew up here in Gaffney. I lived in Tampa and Gaffney.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you for joining us this afternoon. This is a great group of trustees, and we all appreciate your time with us this afternoon and your leadership and service to Limestone. So thank you. We have a little less than an hour together, and I'd like to start by making some general comments, but would like to invite you to interrupt me as we go, and certainly we'll open the floor for discussion, because this is designed to be an interactive session focusing on trustee responsibility in a campaign. And we want this to be as helpful and meaningful to you as it can possibly be. We are going to repeat a few of the slides we shared with the larger group of campus leaders who were with us. Just a few highlights, especially those that relate to the board. Let's start with what a campaign is. A campaign is truly a construct. It is a way to organize a fundraising effort in a way that creates clarity about priorities, builds institutional pride, focuses on those things that are going to make a consequential difference in that time period to an institution, and create urgency. There are many ways that campaigns may be organized. Typically, annual giving is one of the ones that we all know, in which you are asked to make an annual gift, typically unrestricted or possibly restricted to an area of particular interest. That annual giving is the basis for many institutions of important operating support. I know at my prior institution, we were raising quite a significant portion of our operating budget from annual giving. And I would live or die by whether we made or missed that number. So annual giving is just the basic. And for many donors, it's the way in which they start giving. For you at Limestone, because of the unique history of Limestone, you do have many young alumni right now who will have the potential to be good donors, but are not yet giving. So for many of them, participating in the annual fund is a way for them to enter into the progression of giving at Limestone. Fortunately, you also have others in other categories. A second way a campaign can be structured is a capital campaign, in which all the money raised over whatever time period is going for capital purposes. If you were doing a campaign just to raise money for a particular building or a group of buildings and nothing else, that would be a capital campaign. Similarly, an endowment campaign would be a campaign just focused on endowment. And the purpose of that would be to grow your endowment, and that's certainly a laudable objective. You at Limestone, however, are in what we call a comprehensive campaign. By that, we mean it includes 4 components. It includes a capital component. You are trying to raise money for campus beautification. You are trying to raise money to renovate the old library so that it can be a new home for some of your allied health programs. You are raising money so that you can renovate Hamrick for biology and chemistry in support of the VCOM partnership, but also in support of other career pathways being established for students. So you have a capital component of your campaign, but it's not the whole campaign. Similarly, you are trying to raise money for endowment. President Parker shared that the endowment is up to $30 million, which is a feather in all of your hats. It's terrific. And growing that endowment further is an important piece of this campaign, particularly focused on endowed scholarships, but not limited to endowed scholarships. Thirdly is annual giving. You are folding the annual fund into this campaign for good reason, so that your young alums can be part of the campaign when it goes public by giving to the annual fund, but so that all donors can be encouraged to make an annual gift as well as a campaign commitment. And finally, you're including planned giving. For those donors, particularly who are older, to include Limestone in their estate plans, Still others may want to be making gifts out of required minimum distributions, or may want to structure various trust arrangements that would benefit Limestone. Those will count in this campaign. So the campaign that you are embarking on, now in the silent phase, is a comprehensive campaign, including each of those 4 components. When that is over, it may be that you want to focus just on a major gift initiative to do a particular project, or to do something like just focus on endowment. That's possible, or a special project campaign. The campaigns can be categorized in each of these ways. You are in a comprehensive campaign. And the fundraising goals in that campaign, which I just mentioned, are in direct support of your mission, your vision, and your strategic plan. President Parker and a group of trustees didn't just pick them out of the sky one day. They developed organically, systematically, through the strategic planning process and emerged as the fundraising priorities. So the Advancement Office has been charged to focus on these priorities as within the comprehensive campaign as their focus for fundraising. That's what the major gift officers will be talking to people about. And this has been, as I understand it, embraced and endorsed by the board. So there should be no surprises here. Everybody with me here? Right now, you are in the quiet phase of the campaign, or sometimes called the silent phase. You are actively raising money, but you have not yet publicly announced what the goal is. The board will establish that goal once you reach 50 to 60% of whatever either your desired goal is or what you realistically think you can do. If you do better than you think, you may raise the goal from what you're now thinking. If you have trouble or our economy hits a low spot, you may have to scale back your expectations or extend the time period. But the board will be making that decision. And your success in raising money in the quiet phase will determine what goal is announced publicly when you go forward with a public announcement. What we'd like to do today is to focus more specifically on the role of the board. Included in that, we're going to touch on other people's responsibilities so you have a sense of how this fits together. But we want to do a deep dive on your role as trustees. And again, I encourage you to chime in, challenge me, or interact in other ways. All right, stepping back even before we get into these specific responsibilities, as I think about the governing board of an educational institution, I think your responsibilities really revolve around 3 major responsibilities. One is hiring, evaluating, supporting the president of the institution. This board has done a great job. President Griffin was here a long time with successful presidency and hired a great leader to succeed in. I've known your president, have great respect for him. You've got a wonderful person leading here. So this board has owned and fulfilled its responsibility in hiring and supporting your leader. Secondly, boards are responsible for approving the mission and strategic direction of the institution. Again, this board has done that. Your mission is clear. You are educating students from diverse backgrounds in a liberal arts setting with professional opportunities, pre-professional program opportunities. You are very clear, and that you are doing that in a small community with close faculty-student relationships and Christian values. Your mission is clear. Out of that, the vision for the institution was developed, and out of that, the strategic plan for the time in which we are now living and the immediate future. And that, again, That plan is guiding the development of the fundraising priorities. The third responsibility of a governing board is fiduciary. And that includes being sure that the institution is operating with sufficient financial resources to operate the institution. So for that reason, you have a finance committee that is approving the institutional budget and watching the in and out of money to be certain that you're in good shape. As part of that, you may also have an audit committee or subcommittee, investment committee or subcommittee in overseeing investments, being sure that the audit is appropriately executed and there are not issues to be addressed. In addition to that, you've probably got a buildings and grounds committee who is working with the administration on the beautification of the campus, being sure you're addressing deferred maintenance, taking advantage of opportunities to be sure the campus is appropriately sized to support academic programs. So buildings and grounds is part of your fiduciary responsibility. But the other part of your fiduciary responsibility is fundraising or advancement or development, by whatever term you wish to use. It very much belongs to the board. Even though your president is charged to be the chief fundraiser, it is the board's responsibility to approve the goals, to monitor progress, and to lead the way. So the first specific priority within that context of the board is to improve and embrace the strategic vision with funding priorities. You have done that. Now the challenge for you is going to be to stick to it. And when somebody has a great idea, maybe we could get the Panthers to come make this their summer camp. If we just invest in a great facility, it's going to be the board's responsibility to say, no, we're going in this direction instead. Or to say, we need to change this campaign to include that project. That is a board responsibility. So it's approving and sticking to what you do unless you've got very good reason to change it. Secondly, it's up to the board to assure that there is a sufficient budget that fundraising can be implemented. That President Parker has the budget he needs and his advancement staff have the budget they need in order to produce campaign materials, travel, have events in support of fundraising. Third, the board leads the way on giving. You set the threshold for what others will do. Other donors are going to look to this board and well may ask you if you're at 100%. Well may ask you if all the board has made a campaign commitment. You want to be able to answer that affirmatively. You should give before you ask other people to give. The board leads the way. The board sets the expectation. The board sets the standard. So that means making a meaningful personal commitment. What's meaningful to one of you, what's possible for one of you, will be different from others on the board. The key is to make a gift at a level that is meaningful to you and appropriate for your own financial circumstances, and to formalize that as a gift or as a pledge, depending on your own preference. Fourth, it is a board responsibility to open doors and participate in the gift process. And I can't underscore this enough. We know nationally that about 80% of the donations made to philanthropy are coming from individuals, either as outright gifts or as planned gifts. So our focus needs to be on individuals. And we know that people are inspired to give when they are in relationship with the institution and they trust the leadership and are engaged in the life and work of the institution and engaged with the leadership. The leadership includes certainly President Parker. It's led by President Parker. It includes his senior team, his VPs and his deans. But it is this board, and people want to be able to know that Limestone is in good hands because of the quality of this board. So you can help by opening doors, and let me give you a few concrete examples. Some of you are alumni, and some of you are going to have classmates or teammates whom you know, and you know they're not connected to Limestone. You still see these people socially, or you see them on Facebook, or you see them at a club, and you know they're not as engaged in Limestone as you, but you know they've got the capacity for engagement and the capacity to give. So why not set up a lunch or a dinner for you, the person whom you've identified, and maybe President Parker. And the purpose is simply for you just call your friend and say, Joe, I don't know if you know or not, but I'm serving on the board of Limestone now. And I am so impressed with our new president, and such exciting things are going on. I would love for you and your wife to join my wife and me and have dinner with President Parker and hear about his vision for the next decade at Limestone. Or to say, Kelly, next time you're in Charleston, let me know that you're going to be in Charleston, because I've got a good friend who just needs to be more involved with Limestone. And I'd love for you to meet that person. And then when Kelly calls and says, I'm going to be in Charleston first week in November, you pick up the phone and call your friend and say, I wondered if you'd be free for lunch during the week of November 3rd, because our vice president for advancement at Limestone's coming, and she's terrific. And I really would like you to meet her and hear about all the good things going on. And maybe you can explore some ways you could get more involved too. If you will put yourself on the line with your friend in that way, it makes all the difference. If you just give the name to Dr. Parker or to Kelly, and they make that call cold, in today's world, people won't even answer the phone. You know what that's like. If you don't recognize the phone number or the name, you just don't even answer. But if you, as their friend, call and set them up, they will get access that they might not otherwise get. And if it's just impossible for you to do that dinner or that lunch, at least call your friend and say, I've told President Parker he really needs to get to know you. So next time he's in Charleston, he's going to give you a call and see if y'all could get together. And when he calls, I encourage you to accept his invitation. And then when that person sees President's Office Limestone calling, maybe that person will pick up the phone. Especially if Dr. Parker maybe follows that conversation the trustee had with his friend with a short note. Dear Joe, I'm looking forward to meeting you. I'm going to be in Charleston the week of November 3rd. Or if Kelly does the same in the other example. So work with your president, work with advancement to open that door. Similarly, there may be times when either President Parker or a major gift officer or Kelly are meeting with a donor. And they think what that donor really needs to hear to have happen is to meet a trustee. Maybe that person is asking, well, what is this VCOM thing? I don't understand why you're doing this with VCOM. And, what are you doing? All this pre-med, allied health stuff. It may be that a trustee perspective could be very helpful with that. Or if they're asking, why are you building the endowment? What do you need an endowment for in the first place? Maybe a trustee could give your perspective on the importance of building an institutional endowment to this person in a way that would be more persuasive than the staff member. Or maybe they just want to meet somebody from the board because they don't know anybody on the board and would feel better if they had met a trustee before they make a big gift to Limestone. So this may also work in reverse, that your president or an advancement staff member call you and say, would you participate with me? In addition to that, from time to time, trustees are going to be asked to participate in other ways. Homecoming is coming up. Let's say that the advancement staff organizes a special dinner as part of the homecoming activity for major donors to Limestone. You as trustees may be invited to that dinner. And it may be that you are seated by someone who we don't know very well. And your job as a trustee at that dinner is to get to know that person and see if you can engage them and interest them in Limestone. Because if someone's seated with a trustee, often that other person's ears perk up, they feel important, they feel like they're being treated seriously, and it makes Limestone rise on their list and makes it easier to advance the institution. So helping to build relationships, even people you don't know, at a university function as structured by the advancement office. And there's real opportunities there for you to open doors in ways that staff can't. And people will interact with you in ways that are different than how they might interact with the president or the advancement staff. So open doors. Another way that you can participate is in the stewardship process. And that's simply saying thank you. It means so much if a trustee calls and says, I'm a trustee at Limestone, and I just want to thank you for the gift you just made. That matters. They say that we need to thank people 7 times. So be part of that if the advancement staff asks you, and may ask every board member. Each of you may be given somebody to call and thank for a gift at a board meeting, for example. So take advantage of those opportunities and do them. So in many ways, participate in the process of solicitation, helping identify and discover prospects, cultivate relationships, and participate in a solicitation where appropriate, and thank people. And then finally, the board is going to monitor success as we go and hold each other mutually accountable for making the kind of progress that needs to be made. We stop there. Are there any questions about the board's role in a campaign? Have I said anything objectionable, or have I missed it? Yes.
I just have a few questions, if that's okay. It's not somewhat related to the board's responsibility. When you were talking about the 80%, what nationally is the average dollar amount someone gives?
It's a good question. I don't have that information with me. I'll try to get to it.
Second question, what do you attribute Clemson's IPTE process? Why do you think that's been successful?
Clemson has had a long history of institutional and fundraising success. And if you look at the Clemson story, it is a great success story over a long period of time, and one in which their fundraising acumen has increased significantly over a long period of time. And relationships are deep, institutional pride is strong, and their bonds are very, very strong. That has been a sustained project, quite literally generation to generation over a long time. Limestone's history is different, starting as a women's college, then moving into a period of time where you had a lot of part-time students completing degrees, and to the institution it is today. And as we've gone on that path, the tradition of philanthropy has not been built and sustained with the kind of depth that Clemson's been able to do. I will add one other thing, little things like their athletic success on a national level, their success of their academic programs has really built Clemson Rock. And they've ridden that ride. You've got a story though at Limestone that's really strong too. You know, there was a time period that Limestone was not as strong as an institution as it is today. But you and your predecessors took the steps to reposition Limestone in a position of strength. And today, you've got an exciting story to tell with exciting plans. So it's just going to require sustained investment, and it's going to require sticking to it and being patient. We know that big gifts are typically made by people who start making small gifts, repeat those small gifts for a number of years, and then begin making big gifts. Our starting point, if I'm not mistaken, is a 3% alumni giving rate at Limestone. Is that right, Kelly? So we've got 3% of alumni giving. We have got to increase the percentage giving and the amount. But we can do that. I mean, other institutions have started here and have done it. But it's you've got to be in it for the long haul. It's the long game, not a short one. Does that help?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. And I agree with everything that you say. Yeah, for me, there's no doubt or question about the capacity or the ability for Limestone University to achieve this. I think it's like anything else, you know, being a strongly athletic institution, you know, having that clear strategy, but sticking to the fundamentals of it. And that's what I was trying to ask about the IPTAY thing. Yeah, you're right. Long history, tradition, athletics. You know, very often we need to look at ourselves and say, what are our strengths, and not perceive those as weaknesses, but rather strengths. But there has to be probably some fundamentals of IPTAY that, because I'm not a believer in trying to reinvent the wheel. If there's a success story that's local, you know, an hour and a half from us, and some of those principles that they have used, we really should be thinking, I think, as an institution, how do we use those same principles? But it's always about execution. I mean, you know, as a board, we can talk and come up with things, but we do have to figure out how do we best execute it as a board along with the staff.
If I could just interject something real fast, because I don't think we've shared it overall. But last year, as part of our change to our booster structure, when we got Carly involved, one of the other things we did is we found a relative of a board member who was involved with IPTAY, a young man named Riggins, who is this year the year Bob's president of the IPTAY, or was that last year? Oh, we've got you muted. I think we've got
David, unmute your screen.
Yeah, but anyway, he's been giving Carly some advice and help. And as we are looking at last year's numbers, our athletic giving is interesting because we also have some interesting volatility in the data from our golf program, where periodically we get things like sprinter vans. But it's interesting, if you look at our athletic boosterism outside of golf, as we started taking the advice last year and made the move, there is a sizable first step that's been taken, which the fact that it happened last year in the midst of COVID is pretty amazing. I mean, we only had 2 home football games, and you know, the other sports barely got to play. So we are starting the steps of trying to follow principles like that. What we've got to keep reminding ourselves is that we are 50 years behind. And you know, and I'm not quite sure what it was like 50 years ago there. I'm actually pretty sure what it was like just under 40, because that's when I was teaching there. But we're doing some of that modeling, which is good. And you're right on point. Bob, David, I
was muted. I apologize. Yeah, Bob Riggins has served a year and a half. He took over a term from somebody that couldn't serve it out, and now he's got 2 years left, which is their normal term. And we know the Clemson way, and both of us have been contributors down there for years. So we're bringing some of that mentality to Limestone, and he is helping us out with our Saints Club as we speak. So we know what we get a lot. We get a lot of advice there. So it's all good.
And we know we're not going to be Clemson. I mean, we're not going to be a large public. We're not going to be Harvard or Yale, but we can sure be the best Limestone.
And that's where you have to stay focused. It's what lessons can we learn from these others that are applicable to us so that we can be our best self.
And I just want to final comment, and then I'll be quiet, is that your idea of, for us as Board of Trustees to call donors, I would even maybe take it a step further. I think in this day and time, and you said it, is that people don't necessarily always want to pick up the phone. And I'm happy to commit myself that at board meetings, we get a list and it's already pre-addressed where we write a note to whoever the donor is, just a quick note thanking them as a Board of Trustee for their donation and their contribution. I'm old school, and I think we really need to, for in this day and time, to receive a handwritten note from someone can be a powerful.
I think you're absolutely right. And that's easy to execute. You can do it on your own time. It's easy for the advancement staff to pick the names where it's going to make the biggest difference and try to match people up. So thank you for that. That's great. Any other comments? Okay, let me just quickly then touch on the role of others so that you have a complete sense of how these pieces fit together. In terms of what President Parker is going to be doing in slide 4, his job is to articulate a compelling vision for the future. He's done that and doing that. He is your chief fundraiser. And the best team is the president and a trustee. If you've got a solicitation that's going to be a make or break it for Limestone or for this campaign, the best team you can send in is going to be your president and a trustee, or vice president and a trustee. So keep that in mind. But he will be out there and he will be talking about the campaign. But he may ask you to participate in that with him, because people expect the president to talk about the campaign. People expect the president to talk about the future and to make everybody feel great about the institution. For you to do it as a trustee, nobody's paying you to do that. You're doing that as a genuine expression of why you are engaged and serve Limestone. So if he can call on you at events to say a few words from your perspective, it can make all the difference in the world. It gives an external validation, if you will, of what the president just said. So be prepared to speak if asked to speak by the president or advancement staff, even though he's charged with chief spokesperson. He also has to support the vice president of development, the staff, as well as your key volunteers. You have a campaign steering committee. That campaign steering committee is working very closely with the president and Kelly in order to provide volunteer leadership for this campaign. And they will be actively cultivating relationships, discovering prospects, participating in solicitations. And some of you are wearing 2 hats by serving on that group as well as this. But you may also, even if you're not on that steering committee, be asked to do things at their direction if they think you'd be particularly effective in a situation or with a person. The president will have his own portfolio of prospects, so he is going to be an active fundraiser, which means as you think about other things you want President Parker to do, you need to remember that during this campaign period, he is actively engaged in fundraising and will have to build this calendar accordingly. He also will engage you. It's part of his job to maybe ask you to give to the campaign if you haven't yet. If that happens, it may be somebody else asks you, but in some cases he may. It's part of his job to ask you to introduce you to him to someone else. It's part of his job to ask you if you would write a thank you note or attend an event or say a few words in an event. So when he calls on you to ask you to do things, or when Kelly does as his designee, they're doing their job. That's what you want them to be doing. And you can respond as you choose. We hope affirmatively. So those are President Parker's responsibilities. And then in the next slide, we'll just look at how pieces fit together. In order for this campaign to succeed, in order to build a culture of philanthropy, in order to build a foundation for future campaigns, and in Limestone's way, to have the kind of success that Clemson has had, it requires each of you. So earlier today, we met with campus leaders, those on campus, deans and VPs. Advancement staff is meeting in the morning, and you are here. But it takes everyone engaged in this campaign, engaging others, saying positive things about Limestone and the community, building relationships, introducing you to new people. And let me remind you that many of you on the board are community leaders in the upstate or in South Carolina more broadly. You know people that President Parker doesn't. You know people the advancement staff has never heard of. Please always be thinking, is this someone who might want to get engaged at Limestone? If you meet somebody who's just so concerned that these liberal arts graduates are not being prepared for careers today, yes, liberal arts is the best preparation for life, but they got to be able to get that first job. They may be a perfect person to talk to about your career pathways that you're trying to establish. If you meet somebody who just thinks, oh, this health crisis in this country, we've got to have more people in the health fields. They may be really interested in the great work going on here to prepare students not only for medicine, but for other career pathways in the health professions. So constantly be thinking about other people. Somebody else who just has a vision for Gaffney, for Cherokee County. Introduce us, introduce them. You're in a position to do so that no one else is. And if you're not sure if it's worth the president's time, let him decide that. Or let Kelly decide that. Don't assume an answer. Odds are they're going to be interested. Okay. We also covered with the deans and the VPs their roles, because they too are ambassadors. They have to understand the importance of fundraising and participate in it when it has, because it's only going to help them and their programs. And we talked about ways in which they can help and extend advancement staff reach. And we talked with them about the importance of their own financial support of Limestone as well. So that's what we covered with them. And then the advancement staff has to put it all together, put the pieces together. So they are preparing the infrastructure. They've got to come up with those names that they're going to bring to board meetings for you to write thank you letters, for example. They've got to track the process of moving a donor along from identifying them to building a relationship to understanding where their interest and institutional need intersect so that they can be invited to give in a way that is personally meaning to them and of institutional importance to Limestone. They also will be held accountable for sticking to the timeline that we put in place for the campaign and reporting to donors and reporting to the board on campaign progress. So just so that you have a fuller sense of the responsibilities of each player on this team during the campaign period. With that, let me open the floor to questions. What, as trustees, excites you or concerns you about what you're being asked to do as Limestone begins this academic year and begins this academic year in the silent phase of a consequential campaign that will strengthen the future and truly unlock the potential of Limestone. What excites you? What concerns you as you think about your role as trustees, individually or collectively?
What excites me is the future. We've come a long way.
You have come a long way. You know, I said to a couple of people when I came in, I hadn't been to Limestone since, gosh, probably 2003 or 4. And what's happened here is quite a story. The campus is beautiful. The progress you've made. I love what you're doing with the career pathways and the allied health.
A lot of it, and I've talked to Kelly about this, if we could get alumni or graduates of years ago to visit the campus, they would not believe this sprawling campus. They would have to see it to believe it.
You know, I would challenge, I so believe what you just said, and I would challenge all of you to get people back. One of the simple things you as trustees can do is to bring people back with you. I'm going to be at Limestone. I just want you to come see what's happened to this campus. If a trustee extends that invitation to a friend or an acquaintance, it becomes relational and not institutional in a very different way. But the story here is phenomenal. And getting people on this campus to see it, to touch it, to meet some of the people leading academic programs, they're first rate. It's quite a story. And you all need to tell the story, believe the story, and build that kind of enthusiasm and institutional pride, because there's every reason for you to feel it. I really agree with you.
Now, homecoming, are you going to do bus tours or anything like this?
We're going to run a bus service, a shuttle service from Marriott in Spartanburg to campus for those folks, because we're having the Decades Bash at Marriott in Spartanburg. So a lot of people will choose to stay there, and so that they can leave the Decades Bash that night, go straight to their rooms without having
I
to
was
get.
thinking about this, what to see with the athletic fund.
Well,
we're around.
Let me finish. We're going to be bringing them to campus in the shuttle bus, but after the Heinz Reagan Center dedication, I know the Honors College House is doing an open house reception. The Christian Ed, which is not Christian, it has a new name that.
Well, it's still Christian.
Yeah, it's still Christian. It's still Christian Ed, but it has a new name, and I can't think of the right word for it. Adama. Is that right?
Yes.
Adama. But they're going to do an open house and have a reception and giving tours.
Take your mask down so they can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Is this better, guys?
Yes.
I'm sorry that you couldn't hear me. But the Honors College is going to be doing open houses and receptions. So is the Christian Ed program doing open houses and receptions, so we can show off the campus. We will have golf carts to carry people from point A to point B, because it's quite a hike to athletics or to the Honors College House from the main campus. So yes, a long way to answer your question. Yes, it won't be bus tours, but we will have golf carts on hand to show people around and get them from point A to point B.
And, you know, again, that's the way trustees can really help. If you know people coming to homecoming or who should come, just pick up the phone or send them an email and encourage them to come to homecoming and not to miss the open house at the Honors College. Or don't fail to take the shuttle bus tour. It'll be well worth your time when you see everything that has happened on this campus. Again, that's an easy way for you to extend an invitation to your friends, colleagues, and acquaintances that will make a huge difference. And that personal outreach is going to be so much more effective than 1,000 brochures sent by the advancement office. Other comments? I'm going to go back to the other thing you said, that what excites you is the future for Limestone. And that's what this campaign's about. So I hope each of you feels that enthusiasm and sees the campaign as a means to an end to help secure that future as a next step at Limestone. This will not be your last campaign, but it's an important step in that direction.
If you really think in terms of bringing people back, there are so many ways this institution can make a difference. I mean, clearly, as part of Cherokee County and Gaffney, the impact we can have on the community is tremendous, and we do, and that's growing. But then you can expand that into the move to help the careers in the upstate, the move into health-related professions, the partnership with the Via College of Medicine. Those are areas where we're helping first-generation students choose the careers that can have an impact in this state. But it's always come back to this institution transforms the lives of students. And that's the common thread that's been going since 1845. And if you get someone here and they go to the second floor of the Heinz Riggin Center and see the sprawling campus, see the beautiful campus, the progress is overwhelming. If they've been here before, the change is tremendous. That can help trigger a response and reminding them of who we serve and that their experience they had in this institution made a difference in their life is still happening today. The case for getting the next building done to help the health sciences, the case for endowments to help more students succeed, the invitation of them to participate starts to get easier. And as you come across people who want to be engaged, David Riggins and I was having this conversation last week. He said, I'm getting people out of the woodwork coming up asking how to be involved, and you don't start them all on the board if they haven't done anything. What do we do? Well, at the time of homecoming, we're also going to have a meeting of the President's Advisory Council. You've got somebody that is expressing interest, let advancement know, we'll invite them. We'll see if they show up and if they step up. And if so, we'll help it get them more involved. We'll discover the next people to bring into the classroom, to engage with our students, and to nurture to become board members and donors and really help us keep moving forward.
Yeah. The President's Advisory Council is a great vehicle for engagement. It, first of all, can be, if you will, a farm team for future trustees. If they prove their interest, if they make a commitment to learn about Limestone, if they are active and contributing in that environment, and you get to know them better, there will be some who will be good trustees, who will care deeply, have the kinds of personal qualifications and expertise you're seeking on the board, and hopefully gift capacity, especially while you're in a campaign as well. So that's a huge vehicle. And still others may not be appropriate for the board, but they'd be great speakers or great people to host events for you or help in other ways. So the President's Advisory Council gives you a vehicle and a place to go with somebody who wants to be more involved. David, I'm happy to hear you're getting requests like that from people. It's a good sign. Others?
Kelly, what percent of the board has given to the campaign today?
That's a really good question. I am actually in the process of doing those calculations right now in preparation for the board reports that will go out soon. I can't answer that question specifically.
Is that the right direction?
It's moving in the right direction, absolutely. I can say on the faculty staff side of things, at the annual faculty staff meeting, we had our co-chairs for the faculty staff campaign speak to everyone in attendance at the faculty staff meeting. And we were at 64% faculty staff giving. And within 3 days, that had moved up to 68%. So that, you know, we're moving that in the right direction as well. So there's lots of things planned. I will have that information. I will get it to you as soon as I get the calculations done.
The key to giving is not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice.
That's right.
Everybody,
Which varies person to
you know,
person.
give till it hurts.
Mhm.
Type thing. And that's different
You're absolutely
for
right.
each.
That's right. What's sacrificial for me may be a different number than what's sacrificial for you. But underscoring, I just, first of all, to highlight Kelly's number that she just reported, that's a really strong measure. 68% of your faculty and staff, that is huge by any national standard. And that's a story to be told. But this is the time that the board needs to be wrestling down their own commitments as well. Because they're going to look to you. Faculty and staff are going to want to know where does the board stand too. So you'll be getting that number from Kelly, and I would challenge you and the campaign steering committee to have conversations with those trustees who may need a conversation to inspire them to give or to encourage them to reflect on it or to consider different ways of giving that they may not have considered.
And at the upcoming board meeting, we are going to have a spot for Crossing. We'll be in attendance and we'll share with the advancement committee, Joel's committee, a spot on the agenda just to make sure that we remind Crossing, as you all know, is on the steering committee and liaison to the board as a once and future board member. And so we'll also give her a chance to provide an update there and make the appeal once again. And if conversations with her lead to questions or questions, there's always conversations with me as well. So we can help find which corner of the institution touches your heart the most, where your gift will make the biggest impact.
Thank you. And with that, we are right at an hour. I promised that we wouldn't keep you beyond that. So let me give you one last opportunity for any final questions, comments, or contributions. Anyone? If not, I thank you for this opportunity. And I'm going to be cheering you on from the sidelines and hope to be hearing great reports about filling your potential as an institution. It is a bright one. A faculty member in our earlier session talked about your school motto of going toward the light. And I haven't expressed that exactly, but that was the concept. And indeed, Limestone is going toward the light. So continue on that good work that's making such a difference in students' lives and collectively the difference you are making in a venerable institution. So thank you for your time today and best of luck as you begin this academic year.